in that complex domain, right, to where a 9/11 type event, right? So let's say a cyber event that took out the power grid in a large part of the US or something, right? So a black swan type event. Well, those events are truly complex and they will never happen the same way twice, right? The relationships are not only unknown, they are unknowable. And so the strategies, so if it's that type of event, so we can't afford as taxpayers or as a nation or even as a group of allies to prevent against all eventualities all the time, right? Not going to happen. And so what do we do? Well, that's a risk calculation and a risk discussion of where do we put our dollars, what's the most effective. And what we've learned over time is that we take resiliency strategies. And that's why I mentioned earlier, worth a little bit of thought on just preparations. Why? Because in the unlikely event that the grid on the eastern seaboard gets taken out for 2 weeks, then the U.S.'s ability to bounce back quickly, reestablish order, reestablish power, reestablish services, right? That is our measure of success. And so this resiliency approach to, in the unlikely event, something that we can't prevent really occurs, we need the ability to bounce back quickly.
You said the eastern seaboard losing power for 2 weeks. And I'm thinking to myself, that's completely possible. And most listeners are probably thinking to themselves, no way is that possible. And I just wonder if you could respond to that.
Sure. At Lockheed Martin, part of the strategy teams out there, and we do some exercises, kind of thought leadership type activities in what Air Force Futures Command, Army Futures Command, both call, threat casting. Within the threat casting, and you may be familiar with the process, I don't know, but there's forecasting and backcasting. But so we will take a topic, we just did one on neuromorphic compute technologies, right?
Brian David Johnson is one of the guests who's been on the show, and,
Awesome.
And I think he does this for different parts of the military.
So we're partnered with BDJ in these threat casting workshops, right? But so in these events, so you can come together with the right subject matter experts, and you could come up with a theme like, okay, the fragility of the grid, and create a question, and then we can imagine, right, any rank, any position in the company, right? We just pull a group of people together that have expertise in these areas, and we ask the question, and we start, well, what would a plausible scenario look like? It doesn't have to be real, it's imagined, right? And then we start working our way back. Well, how would we know that's occurring? What would we measure, right? And so this process, if you will, allows us to then either set the conditions and goals and objectives so that never happens, or if it was something we wanted to happen, right? It's a forecasting type thing, then we would set the conditions to make that happen. And so that's how it would get to, such an outlandish, theme or thought, is that it's very plausible.